Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our second in the series, Voices in ELT Management. Please let us know while you're arriving where you're watching from. Put it into the chat. My name is Del. I am the head of marketing for Macmillan Education Asia. I'm based here in Bangkok, Thailand. And you can see I'm with Giselle. Hi, Giselle. You're muted.
Hi,
Hello.
everybody. Hello.
Hi, Giselle. How are you?
Good. Thank you. Excited to be here.
Great. Yeah, we're very excited to have you as well. So I'll just give you, while people are letting us know where they're from, you can have a look at the chat. I'll give you a little bit of an introduction. So joining us today for the second in the series, as I said, is Giselle Alano. She is the Assistant Director at BFITS in Thailand. She's got extensive experience in the Thai education sector and also a master's in education. She champions student-centered learning, teacher development, and educational technology. And she's passionate about empowering educators, which I am also. You play a key role in helping teachers build their skills and qualifications. And your leadership drives positive change, fostering a culture of continuous learning. So welcome, Giselle. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me, Del. I look forward to sharing as much as I can today.
Good. And you can see in the chat, we've got people from all over the place. I can see some familiar names. Jinky, I think I always remember that name. I think Jinky's been with us for all of the three webinars that I've gone on previously. This is the fourth. It's not really a webinar because it's more of our chat show. And we can see, yeah, lots of people somebody from Antarctica. Now, I'm not sure I believe that, Giselle. What about you?
I wish I was in Antarctica right now. It's hot in Bangkok.
I tell you what, if you come to this office where I am, the aircon is so cold, it feels like you're in Antarctica anyway. That's why I've got a jacket on. Yeah, freezing cold. Anyway, without further ado, let's get on with today's session. So today's discussion is about enhancing student engagement and learning outcomes, something that's, I think, important. And there was lots for us to talk about. So I'll just ask the audience a quick question before we begin. So to our lovely audience, in your day-to-day work, how much does student outcomes or how much do student outcomes come into your thinking? This could be as a teacher or as a manager. So let us know. When you think of student outcomes, how much do you think of him when you're actually thinking about your teaching? All right, so I'll let you ponder that. So I'm interested in you, Giselle, as a person. I want to find out a bit more about you and where you've come from and how did you get to where you are now. So can you give us a little bit of a background of who you are? And I gave a little bit of brief on your bio, but tell us a bit about yourself, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure, I'd love to tell you. So I moved to Thailand 13 years ago with no teaching qualifications, no teaching degree. I got my first teaching job in Thailand. And this is where I fell in love with education and teaching. Um, I started out with BFITS 11 years ago as a substitute teacher. And, in the trenches, really experiencing what it was like back then with no centralized resources, not a lot of teacher support back then. Um, and then during my time in BFITS as a substitute teacher, I contributed some ideas, helped out some teams with BFITS, and I got promoted as an assistant program manager. After a few years, I got another promotion and went into the program manager role. And just last year, I was promoted as assistant director here at BFIT. So my journey took me from teaching in the classroom, not knowing what to do, not knowing how to teach. I got my master's here in Thailand midway through my employment with BFITS. And that's when I learned more about pedagogy, about theory, about research-based approaches to um, uh, student engagement and learner outcomes. And so now I'm in the position where I can help empower teachers just like me who don't have teaching experience, who didn't have, the pedagogical knowledge. Now we're able to get them into the classrooms more well prepared, more knowledgeable. And I actively took part in the development of our training program here in BFITS, developing our programs, our resources, so that our students here in Thailand can get the best possible experience when they're learning with BFITS.
Yeah, that's a fantastic journey, and I love that the fact like it's kind of come full circle. Now you're helping people that were in a similar situation to you back in the day, right? So yeah, that's interesting. Tell me a little bit more like about so obviously starting as a teaching assistant, then a teach. You mentioned a program manager. What does that entail?
So a program manager at BFITS, we have 5 program managers here, and we have 26 schools, right? So each program manager is in charge of a school and the teachers there, ensuring that the day-to-day operations run smoothly, that the teachers have all the teaching materials that they need, the grading support that they need, the emotional support that they need when they're moving to a different country and their families not around. So basically, ensuring the well-being and the
Right.
effectiveness of our teachers, that falls on a program manager.
Okay. And are you observing teachers as well as a program manager?
Yes. So we do
Right.
informal observations and formal observations. So one is evaluative, and then the other one is, focused on growth and improvement.
Excellent. That sounds really like a positive environment to be in, particularly as as a newbie or even as someone with a extensive experience as teacher. And I'm sure you have a wide variety of teachers there, right?
Yes, we do. We have teachers from all over the world.
Right. Cool. Okay. And when you started as back 11, so did you say 11 years ago, right? 13.
Uh, 13 in total, but I worked somewhere else before coming to BFIT.
Ah, okay. So when you started, did you envisage that this was something that you were going to do and it would be your career and you would get a master's degree and then become the assistant director, or what were
Not
your
at
thoughts?
all. Not at all. I did not have that plan until I fell in love with teaching, which was, when I moved to Thailand, I had no idea that I would fall in love with teaching. Um, so I came here to have a gap year, have a year of teaching. And I think most teachers who come here think they'll stay for a few months to a year. And then they fall in love with the country, they fall in love with teaching Thai students, and they end up staying for
Sure.
years and years. We have teachers who've been with us for 18 years, uh, 10 years. We have so many teachers who wanted to only stay for 6 months, but have now stayed here for several years.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be a one-upper, but I had the same thought in 1996. I came here for without any qualifications, and yeah, and fell into a classroom by chance and loved it, and then got qualified, and here I am. I left for a short while. I came back in 1999, and yeah, it kind of a very similar story in terms of falling in love with the country and the people and the job and the desire to make a difference, right?
Right. And having that experience allows us to support our teachers to also get their qualifications,
Yeah,
if they feel like this is the career path that they want to stick with. BFITS then provides them with a support system to obtain their PGCE or their IQTS or their teaching license from America. Or right now in Thailand, they're doing the 7 modules from the Thai Teachers Council. So those are
right.
some of the things that we help our teachers with.
Yeah, and I really do value that the fact like the empathy that you've got with people because you've done it yourself. You realize the stress that comes with studying and working at the same time, and yeah, having to go through all that, and it's tough, particularly when you're a bit more mature as well. I was mature when I came to do my master's degree, for example, and going back into academia and trying to write essays and think, it's a real challenge and a new skill that you have to learn. Yeah, so it's nice to have that empathy for others.
Definitely. Yeah. So we have countless teachers who are experiencing what you and I have experienced in the past, growing from an inexperienced teacher to making this their career.
Cool. All right, let's get on to some of the content. We've just got a couple of comments here just that I'd like to address before I ask you some questions about the key thoughts of today. I asked the question at the start about whether people think about student outcomes in their day-to-day teaching, and Lloyd has mentioned that it's always on the mind of have they understood, and I think this is a great question to have when you're in the classroom, because you're always making sure you're doing concept checking and instruction checking questions, which obviously
Hi.
boosts engagement.
I wanna send a shout out to Lloyd. Hi, Lloyd.
Oh, do you know
Lloyd is
Lloyd?
a
Okay.
Lloyd is a BFITS teacher, and we're very proud of him.
Okay, all right. He's probably showing off then to the boss. And then we have Guy who says, "This is really, I know Guy as well. Guy's a very experienced teacher. Um, and he said he writes the desired outcomes first and works backwards. Yeah, and having those on the board so the students can actually see clearly what they're doing and what they're supposed to be doing or what they're going towards is great. Student outcomes are essential, says Jamie. Learning what is required by the state, country, or municipalities. That sets a guideline. Yeah, lovely. So let's get into some of the questions. So first of all, let's try and define it. So how do you, Giselle, personally define student engagement and successful learning outcomes?
Right. The the misconception is that learning outcomes are the objectives, right? And that's all they are. For me, I personally define it as um, when the students are emotionally and behaviorally and cognitively invested in their learning, then what they show us at the end of the course or at the end of their studies with us is not just the ability to speak English or to write grammatically correct sentence. We want them to have a love for learning, a love for a confidence in speaking English. We want them to have the curiosity. So these behavioral aspects, I would I wouldn't discount them as part of learning outcomes.
Are your teachers sort of, I guess, instructed to evaluate behaviors as well as academic performance?
Not on paper. I mean, not in a grade, but we do give the students feedback regarding their behaviors,
Right, right.
more so for their growth than to give a number or a
Yeah.
letter to it, right?
Yeah, it is hard to quantify, isn't it? Sometimes that, but like you said, those behaviors are, if particularly I think in primary, are as important, if not academic, ability, because without it, you can go far with academic ability, but if you, as you get further, if you don't have that desire, it becomes much more challenging. And I think you get a real boost if you have got that desire to learn, and you can really ride that wave, I think.
Right. So for us here at BFITS, we don't just want them to have the knowledge and the skills, right? We One of the key learner outcomes that we look for is did you learn how to learn? Are
Yeah,
you able to take, a new skill, look it up online or read some books about it and then develop your own skills? Ultimately, that is the learner outcome that we want to see in our students.
yeah, that is absolutely so important. And these, these skills are kind of changing a lot as well, aren't they? I mean, the advent of, we're not going to talk too much about AI, I guess, unless it comes up, but you know, this new technology that's really been a bit of a game changer recently has necessitated a change in how we manage our learners, particularly when it comes to giving homework and this kind of thing and using it effectively. And it change everyone needs to adapt and change, right?
Yeah, that's why we empower our teachers to use AI. We train them.
Oh, you
Um,
do that? Okay.
we do AI training. This upcoming PD week before schools open, we're doing another session on AI. And again, we've talked about it so much, but it relates to our learner outcomes and their engagement, right? And I think later on we'll be talking more about how that can improve student engagement.
Yeah, yeah, I'll ask you about that because I know you have a background in technology, and we do have a question about that, about digital tools that you find effective. One thing I'd like to maybe, like, we've talked about what we've defined it. So let's think about some of the barriers then. So in your experience, what are the most common barriers to student engagement? And think about your your background's been in Thailand. So think about Thailand, and how can managers help teachers to overcome them?
Yeah, I can speak to the Thai context. I know Asia is a huge continent, so Chinese classrooms and Korean classrooms are very different from Thai classrooms. In Thailand, the teachers that we do work with here, I think the biggest barrier is their own limiting beliefs, as well as their cultural understanding of Thai students. So those are the two key barriers.
Hmm. So, so how would we? So that's good. So the teachers' own beliefs and then cultural barriers. So how do you actually overcome that? Do you have any techniques or any advice for people?
Yeah, a lot of that, we need to adjust that during training. I've had a teacher one time come to me and say, I'm not here to be my student's friend. I don't need them to like me. And I will quote one of my favorite educators, Rita Pearson: students don't like to learn with teachers they don't like,
Right. Yeah.
right? Like they have a hard time hearing what you're saying and hearing your lesson if they don't want to be in that classroom.
Hmm. Hmm.
So changing that mindset, you don't have to be your student's friend, but you do have to care about them. You
Sure.
do have to care about the individual preferences and personalities, because that's what will drive engagement. They will want to be seen. They want you to know their favorite things. They want you to know what they're into, and then you can build your lesson around that to engage them.
Yeah, I think that's great. And somebody had put in one of the emoticons there that they really resonated with that as well. What about the cultural thing then? So you mentioned that culture is a barrier. So can you give us some examples of why it's a barrier, and then maybe what we can do to overcome that as well?
Right. So, for example, when Thai students learn with Thai teachers, right, they see their Thai teachers as their second mom or their second dad. It's not just somebody who's lecturing to them. The teachers have to have that emotional connection with the students. And so getting the foreign teachers to understand that, to Thai students, you're not just an educator. They see you as a role model. They see you um, as their second parent, who
Mm,
cares about them, who wants to see them succeed, who wants to um, give them the knowledge and skills to be great at something someday. So that usually that mindset, usually we have to shift that during training and express to our teachers, you're not just there to read the slides, to talk about the grammar rules. You're also there to care for the students and to verbally let them know that, hey, I'm here because I care about you as an individual and I want you to succeed. And that usually is a good foundation for creating positive relationships for your students, with your
yeah.
students.
Yeah, that's very very insightful. Particularly, yeah, I've worked in Thai schools before, and I would definitely concur with that. I also concur. I think last year I went to visit one of your schools, St. Joseph's Convent School, and I observed teachers very grateful for that opportunity to do that. And you could see that that message is getting across that, they were the teachers were very engaging and engaged with their learners. Like you say, without being without it going too far. So there was no problems with classroom management or them being too familiar. It was very professional, but also very, very nice to see them be able to take risks and make mistakes and this kind of thing. It's lovely.
Very proud of our teachers and our students at St. Joseph Convent. I
Yeah.
think that's a great example of when you have the right combination of a great team of teachers who have the subject knowledge, who have the classroom management skills, you
Yeah.
see the difference in the students and how they engage with their teachers, how they engage with the lesson. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm glad you got to see that.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, I'm really grateful because also they have the confidence to let a stranger just come into their classroom and watch. Like that's fair. Like nobody likes to be observed, right? And yeah, I was really impressed by the fact that they were like, yeah, come in, just it's okay. Yeah,
I think you're right. Nobody likes to be observed, but at BFITS, we've developed a culture of continuous feedback and, you know, observations for growth instead of a score. And the more you do it, I feel like the teachers do get desensitized by my presence in
right.
the
Okay,
back or
that's
by
good.
the head teacher being back there because they know they're not that I'm not there to judge them. I'm not there to find fault. They know that I'm there to see any opportunities for the students or for the teacher to grow.
Right, good. All right, let's go a bit deeper into your experience with the digital side of thing and the you know I know that you studied educational technology, right? Yeah. So let's have a question on technology and um everybody in who's watching, we will have a moment soon where you can ask questions, so please pop them in the Q&A tab or put them into the chat if you've got any questions for Giselle as well. So Giselle, how do you see technology enhancing, particularly like we talked a bit about AI, but you don't have to talk about that, of course, but how do you see technology enhancing or hindering student engagement? Are there any digital tools that you found especially effective?
Um, for us, our approach to technology is definitely to use it as a tool and not as a replacement to teacher creativity, right? So that's very key. We don't see technology as a replacement teacher. Um, Aside from AI, one very popular tool that we use in many of our schools is Kahoot,
Yeah, but
right? Everybody loves a Kahoot. I think they're constantly developing new games in there so that you're able to gamify your review, your quiz instead of doing a boring old Google form or a quiz on paper. We do that on Kahoot, and it becomes more engaging for the students. The one caveat that I will give is that you don't need to always gamify everything. We like to put the Kahoot at the end of the lesson as kind of as a reward and as a quick formative assessment. There is a danger sometimes when we think, we have to gamify everything, we have to make it fun, because life doesn't work that way. Not everything is gamified. So we shouldn't teach our students that everything needs to be fun and engaging and gamified. That we can teach you with slides. There's value in direct instruction. There's value in a teacher speaking and lecturing to the students. But what we want to do is to chunk the time that we spend on those. So a typical lesson for us would be, a 2 to 3 minute warmer, and then we have maybe 10 to 15 minutes of slides and lecture, and then we do collaborative work after that, so pair work or group work for about 10 to 15 minutes, and then the last 5 to 10 minutes will be a Kahoot or a Blue Kit or a quizzes to reward the students for the work that they've put in and to assess them formatively about what they learned during that lesson.
yeah, what you've said there is really interesting when I think about engagement as well. Like there's a lot of variety in a lesson like that. There's a lot of different input sort of techniques and I think this is very engaging for learners. Not everybody likes to learn by, you mentioned a lecture format. Obviously, if that's going to be the whole lesson, you're going to have students that are not engaged. So at least they can wait for the next part, which might be collaborative, which they engage with. So yeah, I think it's a nice model to have. And you mentioned formative. Now, you could, when we think about Kahoot and these playing games, it's kind of like you said, it could be a reward. You could just be a throwaway thing, but you're actually talking about using it as a tool to check on learning, which is really great as well. And that got me thinking about, we have a slogan on one of our courses. It's, they think they're playing, we know they're learning. Something like that, right? And I think if we
I
can get
love
to that
that.
stage with our students, primary, secondary, whatever age they are, if they think they're playing and they're actually learning, that's a really good place to be, I think. Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah.
It's also great when the students know where they're headed in a lesson. Is it time to play or is it time to sit and listen?
Yeah.
And we have those routines in place because um, we want to ensure that, yeah, we can have fun learning can feel like playing, but sometimes you have to put in the hard work and you have to do research and group work and work collaboratively with your team. And that takes a lot of effort from our students. So it's great to tell them, what time is it? Is it lecture time? Is it teamwork time? Or is it playtime?
Yeah.
Playtime usually comes in the end.
Yeah, that's great. And that word routine as well, I think that's so important for students to not be surprised by something, to have that. It's a nice thing to change things up a bit now and then, but students really, they need some structure, and I think that really enhances engagement as well.
Yeah. Well,
Or
to add to that, we also train our teachers to let the students know what the objective is for that lesson and what the agenda is for that lesson. So they can see the first 10 to 15 minutes will be a lecture, the next 10 to 15 minutes will be group work, and the last 10 minutes will be their game. So
right,
giving them that idea of what's going to happen to them during that class is
cool.
effective.
Um, One thing we've been talking about in the last sort of this series of webinars that we've been doing is about listening to learners. And I'm just going to go off on a little bit of a tangent now in terms of um, a lot of the instruction comes from you to the teachers. How much do the teachers ask the students what they like, what they want to do, and what they want to learn? Is there a needs analysis that's standardized, or are teachers left
There's
to do this?
Yeah, we don't have a standardized needs analysis, but it is part of our recommendation to teachers. First, introduce yourself at the start of the year, tell them a little bit about you, get them to ask questions about you, and then it's your turn. Ask them questions, right? This can be in a Google form. Some teachers will write questions like, what's your favorite um, music genre, or what's your favorite band? What do you like to do on weekends? um, who is your best friend, so that they can get some key information about the kids.
Okay, cool. All right, let's move on to a Q&A because we've got a queue from I hope it's Jamie. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I'm not Jane.
Hi, Jamie.
You know Jamie?
Oh, Jamie's a fantastic science teacher at
Okay, well,
Satri Witaya School.
you've got a fan club in today. This is great.
Thank you for
Thank you.
coming.
So you can see that question. What was your most challenging moment when teaching, and how did you overcome it? Keep the questions coming, by the way, while Giselle thinks about the answer.
Um, have you ever made a student cry? It is
Um, I, not straight away, but potentially afterwards. I've sometimes done some stuff, yeah, that I'm not proud of. Shouted at
in
learners.
in my first year of teaching, I was assigned to go to the northeastern part of Thailand. And
Ah,
again, right. And this goes back to cultural understanding. In the Philippines, our teachers were very strict. If you
right.
spell a word incorrectly with just one missing letter, that is not accepted. Here
Wow.
in Thailand, it's a bit more, the approach is a bit more soft, right?
Yeah.
And because I was harsh, I think I told the student, this is wrong, and I crossed it out of her notebook. And I was teaching grade two students, like, this is wrong. No, no, you have to be very accurate when you're spelling. And that was one of the toughest moments when I realized this is not helping the
Right.
student. Me being so critical of her spelling is not helping her. Um, and she cried, and that stuck with me. My delivery of my feedback and how I correct their mistakes has changed since then, because I was modeling myself. I wasn't a trained teacher back then. I didn't have my master's yet. I was modeling my teaching style after my own Filipino teachers, and I think
Mm.
many of us do that. We try to mimic
Yeah.
the teachers who have taught us,
Yeah.
and not everything that they did was kosher. So
Yeah.
I had to learn the hard way that, just because a student made a mistake doesn't mean I have to correct every single thing at
Mm.
that moment. Maybe I could have given her some encouragement and said, I see some wrong spelling here of some vocab words. Why don't you try again and I'll come back
Yeah.
to you? Maybe give her a chance to correct herself instead of saying wrong, wrong, wrong. No, this is not right. So yes, I have learned from that.
Yeah, and it's a good lesson to learn. And I will obviously feel sorry for the student who hopefully you made it up to them through the term and
I did.
realized, but
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, if you have a year with students, right?
yeah,
There's a lot of room for you to make it up to your kids and for you to improve. So it's
yeah,
really a matter of recognizing if you've done something wrong and then
yeah.
shifting your approach.
It's actually a good lesson for the students, isn't it? That you can make mistakes and you can, say that change yourself because of making it means that the learners hopefully then can make mistakes and as long as they learn from them, then it's okay.
Yeah.
All right, we got a couple more questions. So Tyree says, do you ever miss being in the classroom daily, teaching students?
Yes, I do. I've actually requested for next year that my director gives me a class that I can teach for the whole year. So that's in consideration. But yeah, I do. I in the classroom, in and out of the classrooms, when somebody needs to take a personal day or a sick leave, I will go in there if no one else is available to
Right.
cover for our teachers. So yeah, it's something that I encourage our managers to do as well, to always step into the classroom and not forget that you're a teacher first. And the only
Yeah,
way you can be an effective manager is you remember that you're a teacher first.
I've because so my career, obviously I started as a teacher and got qualified and then became qualified enough to be a manager. And then usually what happens is you stop teaching, so you get rewarded for being a good teacher by being moved out of the classroom, right? So it's kind of like it's hard to then adjust to that. So there's always that time. I mean, even now, I haven't been in the classroom for quite a long time, and I still get pangs to get into the classroom and see if I can make that connection and enjoy it as much as I used to. I'm sure I would, because I really loved being in the classroom when I was there.
I'm sure we can make that happen.
Yeah, yes, I bet you could.
The next time somebody's sick, I'll phone you though. No, you
All
gotta go
right.
to St. Joseph.
Okay, I'm not going to hold you to that, or I might take your number out of my phone. No, I'm just joking. All right, we're moving on with time. I'm always conscious of this, but there's one more question which we'll take from Mark. Do you know Mark?
Hi, Mark.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
Um, with the rapid evolution of educational technology, how can we balance innovation with practical, effective teaching strategies that truly enhance learning? Hmm.
Hmm. So let me take us back to how we use educational technology, right? We use it as a tool. So when you use a tool, you have to evaluate the impact that it has on our students. Did they enjoy it? Did they like it? Were you able to measure their, were you able to measure your objective using this tool? Um, So evaluating it and letting go of what doesn't serve you. So if that tool doesn't tick all those boxes, move on. Try
Yeah.
something else. I think that um, you know one of the mistakes that we make is sticking to something too long when it's not working, and then it leads to frustration on on the teacher's part, and the student's part. So if nobody likes your quizzes, right? Ask the students, do you enjoy it? Do you like it? Um, and ask yourself as a teacher, did I get the results that I want? Was I able to measure my students' understanding of the topic? If the answer is yes, then keep using it. If it's not, move on. Try something else. If it's too hard for you to use, if it's too time consuming, um, we empower teachers to choose the right tools for their own classes. We can't say everybody must use Kahoot because
Yeah.
every class is different. So it's really, we trust our teachers to decide which tools are practical for them, which tools are effective and beneficial for their own teaching.
Yeah, and my advice, I think, with technology, if I could just sort of piggyback that, is there is so much out there, and it is advancing all the time. But there are the stuff that's been there a while, like Kahoot. It's been there a while because it's so good and it works. And I would advise teachers who are using tech to find 3 or 4 tools that they can use really, really well and be really be experts in those tools. And then maybe reevaluate further down if there's other things coming in. But yeah, pick 2 or 3, be an expert in those and stick with them, ones that work, like you just said, rather than trying to use every tool that's available.
Exactly. I think you hit the nail on the head there. There's so much out there. Don't try to use more than 2 to 3 at a time
Yeah.
if you're learning them, right? Once you have mastered one ed tech app, then you can try a few others. Um, but it can be quite confusing if you're trying out multiple apps at the same time, and can be discouraging too.
All right. So we're pushing on for time. So we've got what's coming up now is our lightning round. All right. Let me just share
Oh,
my screen for the lightning round. Can you all see our? There we go. So I've got
yeah.
3 questions for you that we ask everybody. 3 big questions. The first question is, what's the best advice you've ever received as a ELT manager?
Ooh. The best advice I've received as an ELT manager is to listen actively to my teachers. I think the smartest person in the room is usually the person who knows they don't know everything, right? So making sure that you're listening to your teacher's feedback, to your teacher's needs, preferences, and actively hearing them, listening to them instead of allowing your vision to cloud that.
Yeah, and that is a skill in itself, isn't it? I think there's some kind of quote about we've got 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, right? So that you can listen. But it is difficult sometimes, um, particularly when you're looking at something and you feel like you need to get this across to a teacher, and then when they're telling you maybe a reason why, and it is something that you have to work on, I think, and I'm also working on that all the time, even not just with in any relationship. It can be a challenge to listen effectively and actively.
Oh,
Yeah, good advice.
I got that advice actually from a teacher.
Oh, did you? That's
Um,
good.
yeah,
Tell us a bit more. Tell us.
I think it was because I wasn't really hearing what they were trying to say, and they asked me to just pause and to hold my judgment, um, and hold my preconceived notions and just hear them out. for 5 minutes. And I
Wow.
realized, you're right. I'm pushing what I want on you instead of taking the time to just really listen, just really open your ears and not try to come up with a counter argument while you're
Hmm.
listening to this person, to this teacher express their needs or their problem to you. It's very easy to say, well, that's easy, it's just go back to the lesson plan and write this out, um, before really understanding their needs and understanding, oh, you have this condition, you have, for example, you have ADHD, and that's why all this information that we're sending you is not working. We're overwhelming you with the information, and all the resources are organized in a way um, that's a bit too crowded for you.
Yeah.
So just listening first before
Cool.
offering my advice, I think is one of the best pieces of advice that I've received, and I'm thankful to the teacher
I
that
you can
stopped
see
me.
the hearts coming up. I think people agree with you there as well. Yeah, but if managers would only listen to me, yeah. I have a wonderful manager who listens to me, and I'm very very lucky in that respect. Um, question 2 of the lightning round. What's a book, podcast, or resource that has inspired you recently?
Oh, recently, I actually want to share a TED Talk that's inspired me for years. And I mentioned her earlier. That's Rita Pearson. If you look up this lady, the whole idea is for you to be a champion for your students, no matter how you feel about that student, right? No matter how difficult they make your life, to be a champion for every single kid that's in your classroom.
I think I've found it.
You got
So
it? Okay.
every kid needs a champion.
Every
Rita
kid needs a
Pearson.
champion. Every kid needs someone who believes in them. And, if you're listening, that could be you. So don't be like me. Don't cross out all the incorrect answers and champion them, right? I believe in you. I know you can do this. Try again.
Cool. All right, great. And Lloyd's put a link up there, which is definitely the right one. And the last question of the lightning round. If you had to describe great leadership in one word, what would that word be?
I would have to say that word is empathy. You have to have empathy to be a good leader.
Yeah, and I think from just talking to you today, I think that word comes out of you. It's like you might as well have it written on your head. It just seems to be there all the time in everything you say. You talked about your teachers, you talked about your own journey, you talked about your students. And the thing that you regretted was that you didn't have empathy for that student. And now you've got it. The fact that you've been through this journey yourself and you can now empathize with teachers who have on that in that first year that you were in, and I think it really really comes out of you, and I'm really privileged to talk to you today. It's been wonderful.
Thank you, Dal.
So just to wrap up, if anybody's got any other questions, then please let us know. But I wanted to give you an opportunity, Giselle, because you've been so kind with your time, just to maybe talk a little bit about BFITS. I've got the website up, and if I can show everybody, and you can just tell us a bit about what you're doing, and yeah, I mean, it would be great to hear. So let me just move that across.
Thank you. Thanks for allowing me to do a shameless plug here. I
No, it's
want
fine. It's
to,
not shameless. You've done so much for us in the last 45 minutes. I'd love to hear about what you're doing.
well, I'd like to invite our audience to check out our website, BFITS Thailand. We are an educational company in Thailand, and we service over 26 different schools across the country in the Northeast, in central Thailand, Bangkok, and in the south of Thailand as well. So we recruit teachers, and train them to become effective teachers in the classroom. We also ensure that all the resources are available to them. So the reason why we are partnered with, that's the reason why I know Dell is because we're partnered with Macmillan, And we work together to provide English resources to our teachers. And we use our resources, our amazing teachers, our infrastructure. You know, we have a whole support team. We have our visa team, our academic manager, HR manager, our training manager, all our program managers, and our Thai staff here in the head office. All of us work together to ensure that we empower our BFITS teachers, our bright teachers, to be the most effective teachers that they can be in the classroom. So if you want to be a part of that, if you want to be a part of the BFITS experience, please check out our website and join us.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I just want to finish with, there's a couple of comments in the chat. Mark, who you know, said, super true. Thanks, Giselle. Thanks, Del. Truly insightful. And Rose, I want to finish with this one. I am really inspired by you, Giselle. Thank you, Del. You are making me a better teacher. Isn't that a wonderful way to end the chat? So thank you all for your participation. Please follow us on our Facebook channels and our WeChat, and we will send you all the information you need for the spring webinars, which will be coming up in May. And we hope to see you again. And once again, Giselle, amazing. Thank you so much for your insight and your discussion today.
Thanks, Del. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.